script reports can be emotionally draining. So this episode is all about how to take all of that constructive criticism, deconstruct it, and then how to use it objectively to get the most out of your screenplay. Bingo! So we can all picture the day, I'm sure. These days, it's more of a ping on your phone. Years ago, it used to be you would get a thud through your letterbox as your script came back with its paper notes. These days, it's a ping on your phone, and you look at it, and your heart races and your stomach tightens because all you really want to do is click on open and then immediately read all those comments. And if I said to you, don't do that, then you would probably ignore me because everybody does. But there is a point about making the best mental space and the best physical space to actually go and read those notes. So yes, you might want to whiz all the way through it, but try not to do. Park it, take yourself to your happy place at home. Don't make any notes. Open it, read it, absorb. Yeah. You are going to be on an emotional high, looking at all the notes where people praise you, and you'll be, oh, they get me, they get my story. Oh, how did they pick that out? I didn't even think I'd written that in the story, but they've managed to get it to the pits of depression. They haven't even read it. How could they think that? That's clearly in there. It's written in there. And they'll go through the page and they'll look on page 28. It says that. So what you've written there, that's completely wrong. And you go through all of that emotion, and everybody does. Okay. So you'll read through it first, and then you pause, and then you'll probably read through it again, but only looking at the positives. We all do that, by the way. So that's cool. It's fine. The thing to do then is, once you've done that, is to park it. Put the notes away and don't read them again. Give yourself a few days. It's at least a few days. And hopefully you'll have other notes as well. So you've got 2 or 3 feedback notes, if not more, to review at this milestone. And we've covered milestones in the last episode. So you've got all of these notes together. And the thing to do then is take yourself to your happy place and just go and, with a highlight pen, go through and look at all the positives and all the negatives. And just go through with a little highlight pen and do it on them all. And then set yourself up a spreadsheet, because we all love a spreadsheet, or a Word document, or even just do it on a graph paper. But you want to have the reader, and then the sections, the headings we've talked about before, the structure and the dialogue and the plot. And in each of those headings where you've got the comments back, pick out the pros and cons in each one of those headings, and then put the score in there as well. So you've hopefully asked for that coverage scoring. So what you will create is a grid pattern with the pros and cons consistently across the whole of the work. The next step then is to look at all the points that are random. So there are comments that one reader's made that somebody else hasn't. Make a note of those as well, because they are important. And if you need to, and you've got the relationship, go back and clarify them with the reader. So if you've got a few questions that are inconsistent and nobody else has picked up on, then put those in a little bucket, if you like, and go back to that reader or those readers and say, can you just tell me a little bit more about those? So, and that might go back into your pros and cons in your table, and then you have that table complete, because this is an editor's list. This is a list where you're then going to focus. So if in structure the comments come back and say, it's pretty weak, it's pretty flat, the second act isn't really going anywhere, then those are really consistent and strong points that need addressing. And you do the same for the dialogue and the plot and everything else. And you're creating a list of both the negative consistencies and the positive consistencies. Now, don't assume that all the positive consistencies can be ignored because, it's great, it's working, therefore that's not an issue. Keep them in the grid, and keep reviewing them in later drafts, because be aware that when you start to edit what doesn't work, you will change what does work. So you just have to keep an eye on that in the process. There will be casualties involved. The other thing to do is that if you do this process for each milestone, and you picture it as a spreadsheet with a tab for each milestone, you may start to see consistencies where there are weaknesses, and there are weaknesses that are consistently not being addressed. And what I mean by that is that let's pick dialogue as an example. If dialogue is constantly coming back as being an issue, then you as a writer need to start to look at what you can do to just generally improve dialogue. So nothing to do with this specific script, but you as a writer need to make your dialogue work a lot better. So if you want the worksheets that accompany this series, you can download them for free using the discount code at the end of this video. Just hop along then to clickimagination.com and go to the downloads page. If in structure, for example, if your structure has major issues, then I would advise not to go back, not to edit the screenplay. Is to park the draft of that screenplay and go all the way back to treatment and go to outline. I think there is a temptation that once a script is written, that becomes the mechanism for writers to edit the stories from there onwards. Don't be tempted in doing that. Park that script, go back to the outline, go back to a log line. If you're comfortable with it, if that's if that's a good tool for you, go back to 3 paragraphs, a page, summarize the story and revise the story and work on the structure part of it. Don't be tempted to edit it specifically in a screenplay. And one of the reasons why I say not to do that is because you will waste so much time. When you edit in a screenplay, you will start to repolish things and you'll start to change the dialogue again, and you'll waste time looking at typos and all sorts of other things that are nothing to do with fixing the big problem of your screenplay. And also think of all these different components as a jigsaw, and all you need to do is create the frame first without worrying about putting all the little pieces in place. So it's the big ticket items. Structure. Focus on structure, get the structure right, don't deviate to fixing dialogue. Fix that next. Don't assume specifically that all the reader notes are correct. One of the reasons why I advocate very strongly about having the milestone approach and getting at least 2 or 3 reports back at a milestone is that you can see the inconsistencies and the consistency in opinion, and it reinforces you as a writer, especially if you're starting out and a younger writer. It's very easy to get something back from an exec, in a script report that you've probably paid, I don't know, whatever, $150, $200 for, and they'll say this isn't working, and you panic and kind of go, and then you focus on correcting that. Whereas if you've got 3 reports, where even if it's a peer support, it's one of your friends in a writing group and they're not trained but they're a writer and they love movies and they've seen enough, even if one of somebody's opinion there, it all counts. And if you've got all those opinions together, you can see and challenge whether or not actually something is working or whether it isn't working. So you can say, well, actually they've highlighted that this character doesn't work, but everybody else says they do, or they don't get the comedy, but all the others do. So it allows you to just have a lot more depth in and validation in those comments at that milestone. As well as the words, we have the scores. So for each one of these sections now, we have a score rating. So as well as looking for the consistencies in the comments, have a look and see how the scores sit. Are you getting consistent 4s for dialogue, consistent 3s for structure, consistent 9s for formatting? What are your strengths? And you're learning about what makes you strong as a writer, as well as what the draft is doing. You're learning about yourself, your own strengths and weaknesses. So you want to be on the lookout as well for issues that you're not resolving in each milestone. So if structure is consistently low in numbers, then really you're not addressing some fundamental problems with the screenplay, and at some point you really need to take that on board. There's an element of denial potentially, and you're just rewriting your way around trying to solve a fundamental problem. And that's the point when potentially you might want to take a big step back from the whole project and say, you know, really, am I just attacking this the wrong way? And, you know, really good advice is time is often the best editor. You know, so we've talked about how you find feedback in a previous episode, but one bit is learning how to do it yourself, and an easy way to edit you sort of self and give yourself that feedback is just to put it away for as long as you possibly can. And we're not talking days, we're talking weeks and months, and then take it out and review it and see what immediately jumps out. So just look for those fundamental problems with the screenplay that's just not getting fixed in each draft. And by the way, everybody does it. You know, we're all in denial to some degree. So if writing is all about rewriting, then rewriting is really all about overcoming denial, challenging yourself to fix those problems that really deep down you know exist, but you're just winging it, thinking each draft I might have got away with that, but invariably you don't. If you want the worksheets that accompany this series, then head over to clickimagination.com and visit the downloads page and use this discount code here to get the downloads for free. So we have our table. Going back to our table again, we have all that drafted out. The big temptation is to go in and redraft it and change everything, because you just, now you know that this doesn't work and that doesn't work. Is you face a screenplay and then you go in and edit another screenplay, and change everything. It's all about prioritizing. What you're learning to do in this rewriting process is prioritize where you spend your time. And we're going to cover that in the next episode, how we prioritize and work through the areas that we need to fix. So we're going to save you oodles of time and save you oodles of stress as well. So check out the next video. If you've got any comments about this approach or about how we table things, or do you do something similar, then please stick it in the comments section below, and click on the subscription with a little bell thingy, because otherwise you're not going to get the notifications of the next episodes, so you're going to miss out. Anyway, stay well, keep writing, and I'll see you soon. Script reports can be emotionally draining. Script reports can be, I feel like I'm smiling too much. Script reports can be emotionally draining. So this episode